on, guys? Right Teacher Announced, and I'm here with a reaction video on a video that keeps popping up in my recommended feed, and a few friends of mine have been mentioning this too. So I wanted to talk about a video by Gym Leader Ed. This is a video called "Pokemon Fans Need to Play More Games: A Message to Disgruntled Fans." I've watched a bit of Gym Leader Ed before. He does a lot of Monster Tamer type game content. He releases a lot of videos on the daily. This one came out about 2 weeks ago, but it keeps popping up, so I wanted to talk about it. I'm definitely interested to hear what he has to say. As someone who's played a lot of Monster Tamer games myself, I'm definitely interested to see what his take is, and we'll talk about my take and everything like that along the way. So, if you like this kind of video, make sure to hit the like button, of course, and subscribe if you're new. Definitely would appreciate it, of course. But without any further ado, let's get on into it. So, what have you got to say for us, Ed? Also, I really like his intro, by the way. Really nice looking intro.
Now, I've made a lot of videos being critical of the recent direction in which Pokemon is going, whether it be the further casualization of the games through the forced experience share, or the lack of features in place of more transient ones, but this isn't what this video is meant to be. This video is going to be more critical of people like myself whom have become either disinterested or at least more apathetic towards the franchise over the past few years. Now, what do I mean by being critical of these people? They have valid points, so what's the issue? Well, the issue for me is the same thing that I get sort of annoyed by other avenues outside of YouTube even. This is the archetype of the person that complains about their situation, justified or not, but then refuses to do anything to circumvent that situation. I've had friends decline job offers because they think that they are above certain industries, then complain that they don't have any extra money. Much like I see people criticizing the Pokemon franchise, like myself, but then have a strange opposition to giving other franchises that are within the same genre but not Pokemon a chance because it's not Pokemon. For example,
that's definitely true. I've talked a lot over the years, especially about Pokemon in general, but unfortunately, one of the things about business is that Pokemon as a franchise has existed for 25 years, right? It's been around for so long at this point. You know, people have tried to compete with it, and they've just generally died out. Look at Yokai Watch, for example. Like, Yokai Watch was supposed to be the next big Pokemon, and then nowadays it's pretty much faded into irrelevancy. So it's kind of an awkward situation where, like, yes, it's not Pokemon, but brand loyalty exists all the time, right? And it's not just in video games either. It's consoles, food products, like whatever. Like, you tend to gravitate towards certain brands, even certain streamers and content creators. Like, some of you guys watch me for me, but you wouldn't watch somebody else playing the same game as me. So, like, there's a lot of difficulties around this. But yeah, I can see where this is coming from. I definitely think there's a lot of fans that are kind of reluctant to try anything else, or they're kind of playing Pokemon in the hopes that it gets better again. But right now, it's kind of a difficult situation for a lot of people to be in.
It took me months to convince one of my friends to try Nexomon. I made this recommendation to him based off of the type of Pokemon fan he is. He's a type that will play a Pokemon game for the adventure, do a little post-game stuff, and then kind of put the game down. So while the Nexomon games aren't super deep in terms of combat complexity, and the post-game mostly consists of catching legendaries and checking out custom mode if that interests you, my friend, being someone who doesn't like overly complicated systems, really enjoyed this game. That said, there
Nexomon's a really good game, by the way. If you haven't played Nexomon, I highly encourage you to try it out.
Was this huge hesitancy on his part to actually try the game itself. He'd consistently tell me how he wishes Pokemon would do this, or that Pokemon would do that, and why don't the new Pokemon games do this? And then when I respond, oh, well, Nexomon actually does that one thing pretty well, his response would be, oh, well, I wish Pokemon would do that.
This always bugs me, like, when I always hear this, because a lot of people asks a lot of, for a lot of features that are in Pokemon games that honestly will cater to very specific people. Like, people constantly ask for randomizers, people are asking for Nuzlocke mode, like some form of, like, new game plus, if you like. And the problem is, younger audiences are probably not going to want to play that. And I think that's probably the biggest problem we have here, and I feel like that's why Pokemon has always been so reluctant to do this. It's kind of interesting to see Ilka with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl opt to actually make a more challenging gym system and a more challenging Elite Four. That Elite Four is actually tough even for adult players to play against, let alone, you know, young kids that are playing the game. But the problem is, Pokemon is geared towards a younger audience, so there are certain features that older players like myself who have been around since the beginning would like to have. but it's not going to be super suitable for a younger audience. So it's kind of a difficult balance to act. But he's definitely right though. If it's not Pokemon, there's a lot of people out there that will just not play other games, and it's kind of sad, but at the same time, it's completely understandable.
It may seem silly to those who watch my channel and experience different monster taming games regularly, but I've actually found that when dealing with the Pokemon community or just general Pokemon fans, whether it be online or in my personal life, that this is not only uncommon, but a default response of sorts. A lot of people who defend modern Pokemon will oftentimes say, well, it will sell. And while this is an absolutely terrible argument when it comes to discussing the quality of things, it is indeed rooted in reality. And while sales are by no means indicative of a good product, they can be indicative of a working business model, thus will give the developers and publishers no reason to change said model.
That is absolutely true. The reality is, like, the problem is Pokemon games have sold well constantly, right? Sword and Shield is literally the highest selling release Pokemon game of all time. Like, Sword and Shield eclipsed even, I think it was Ruby and Sapphire, that was the previous record holder. So the fact that Sword and Shield dominated so well because people bought the game thinking it would be good, you know, at the end of the day, companies are going to be seeing those numbers and they're going to be like, cool, people want this, people are buying this, people are playing this, so they're not going to get the change you want. I've said this before and I'll say this again, right? At the end of the day, if you want a franchise to change, not just Pokemon, it could be anything, Call of Duty, whatever, the reality is, vote with your wallet, right? I didn't want another Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game, so I didn't buy the Super Mystery Dungeon DX or whatever it's called, and to this day, I still don't own that game, because I don't want it, so I didn't buy it. And at the end of the day, I feel like people are too reluctant to deviate away from their fan base, and brand loyalty is kind of very powerful, especially if you've been playing Pokemon for a very, very long time. It's kind of difficult to deviate away from that, but at the same time, like, there are a lot of people that buy the games, even if they're not going to enjoy the game, they're just going to buy it anyway, and that is actually part of the problem.
I believe the most accurate phrase here would be, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and by broke, they're not talking about the game, they're talking about the fundamental model. Now, we can talk about whether or not recent Pokemon games are selling more because they're just on the Switch, which is a highly sold console, or if it's just appealing to a younger demographic, which is opening it up to even more sales or whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is that the recent Pokemon games are some of the most controversial games to date, yet they still smash records with ease. And while people are complaining about these titles, they're also refusing to try anything else. Now, right off the bat, I bought Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, really hoping to like these games, but the honest truth of the matter is that I would not have bought these games if it hadn't been for this YouTube channel. As a content creator that covers the monster taming genre, which includes Pokemon, it's my job to talk about these games and discuss my takes on them so that my viewers will have some level of informed decision-making power so they can make a choice as to whether or not they want to buy these games as well, based off of the information I provide. I'm sure that a lot of people went into Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl with the same mentality as me, thinking, hey, you know, it's Sinnoh, I enjoyed that region, I enjoyed Diamond and Pearl, I wouldn't mind tackling it one more time. And
there are a lot of people that had a lot of unrealistic expectations of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Like, the Pokemon Company were very, very careful in how they use their words to sort of somewhat temper the expectations. Like, when we heard the term Faithful Remake going around, I would be very surprised how many people were, like, expecting Platinum elements, expecting, like, all these massive new features in Sinnoh, when we knew this was going to be a game that was close to the original ones. So there were a lot of people that had a lot of expectations that, to me, seemed unrealistic. While I would have liked to have seen some of these features, obviously, as a fan of the game, I would have loved to have seen it. But the reality is, I feel like a lot of people went in with unrealistic expectations, and that's probably what's caused half of the disgruntlement among the Pokemon fans, in some cases including myself.
At the end of the day, some people did get what they were looking for, whilst others did not, and that's okay. The fact that people still buy these games is not what actually bothers me necessarily. What bothers me is the unwillingness to try anything different because it's what's familiar. Pokemon has had a grasp on the monster taming genre for over 2 decades, and it still does, but as we see more fans getting disenfranchised, we also see more interest in the genre, but there's definitely a strange apprehension to trying some of these games, and this video is, I guess, a long-winded way of saying, get your head out of your bum and try something new. Now, some might bring up the financial aspect. Hey, if I'm going to spend money, I want to know that it's good. I want to know what I'm getting into. And while I can definitely understand that, as I am a person who definitely likes to do what they're comfortable with, there is a huge amount of people that bought BDSP knowing they were not going to like it. And if you're willing to spend $60 USD on a gamble that you know you're going to lose, I can't really understand why you wouldn't want to spend a fraction of that checking out some other monster taming games that, sure, you might not like them, but at the end of the day, you knew you weren't going to like Pokemon, but you...
So, to put it in context, I think Nexomon Extinction is about $20 US right now. So, like, yeah, it's a third of the cost, and it's for a game that is different. It's not Pokemon by any means, but it has some things that Pokemon doesn't have, while it also lacks some things that Pokemon has. It's different, but it's up to you whether you choose to buy it or not. I feel like my biggest gripe when I choose what games I actually want to play is often the price point of a lot of these games. Now, I've played a lot of fan games, I've played a lot of ROM hacks, and those are free. To put it bluntly, those are free. So, like, I'm more willing and able to play a free game than I would be to buy into a game, right? Now, I've been a Pokemon fan for a long time, but even I skipped a Pokemon game. Like, you know, I skipped Mystery Dungeon. I begrudgingly bought new Pokemon Snap. I kind of regret buying new Pokemon Snap because as much as I thought I was going to enjoy it, it turns out I didn't. So, like, that's a thing. But at the end of the day, like, Pokemon has always been top of the game because it has things that it does better than any other game. Music-wise, monster design-wise. I think the reality is Pokemon eclipses a lot of these other games. But a lot of these other games, even if it's Pokemon fan games and ROM hacks, or just general other monster taming games, will have features that people would like in Pokemon, but there's always a good chance that they may not actually be successful for Pokemon, and I feel like that's probably where the gap needs to be bridged. So I feel like that's kind of the issue that I see here personally.
You still bought it. You do, however, have the chance of really finding a game you fall in love with, just like my friend. Speaking of him, he's always asking me when the next update's coming for Nexomon, or if we have any information on Nexomon 3 and stuff like that, and it makes me happy to see that he's able to fill that void that he felt that was left behind by modern Pokemon. Now I'm trying to get him to check out Koromon because I think that would also be right up his alley, and again, it's taking a little bit of a push. A lot of us grew up with Pokemon. It was a huge part of our earliest memories, and I think we've become so comfortable with it being part of our lives that it's difficult to imagine our own life without it. Now, this video is by no means a call to boycott Pokemon. We actually have a large section of the monster taming community that does enjoy modern Pokemon, but also enjoys the various monster taming games for their own unique twists, and that's totally fine. This instead is a call to...
Ooh, I don't recognize this game. I've recognized like every other game up until this point, but this one I don't recognize. This is a very, very interesting, like, battle thing there. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but it looks kind of interesting. I'm not sure what game that is. I'll have to look it up. See what that kind of game is.
To step out of your comfort zone and try something new. I'm not saying to go in blind. You can research a lot of these games on YouTube. You can check out my channel. I got breakdowns, reviews, guides, let's plays, etc. of a lot of these different games, and you can get a good idea of what these games have to offer before buying them. I want to see monster taming games get more attention because at the end of the day, they deserve it. We have games that are bringing forth mechanics that people have only dreamed would exist in Pokemon, like Nuzlocke modes, difficulty settings, randomizers, New Game Plus, etc.
So this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, this is the, like, very niche part of the audience that have been around for a very, very long time. Or, like, general content creators as a whole. These are all things that content creators and older players like myself would want. But younger players who want to experience the games for the first time, this probably isn't for them. So that's probably the most likely reason why Pokemon won't do it. But I do think he's right. I think it would be nice to be able to cater for that. But then it comes down to how much money is Pokemon willing to invest. Now, Pokemon, historically over the years, has been very public about the fact that they budget games very, very low. Like, they could easily increase the budget and potentially code this if they really wanted to, but then that lowers their profit margin. So, it depends, really. Corporations do this all the time. This is a common trait in corporations. So while I think he's somewhat right in what he's saying, I feel like there's a lot of things that are not being considered in this video,
etc. And it just seems like people are settling for what they perceive to be mediocrity in the name of familiarity. We truly live in a generation where our nostalgia is milked for all it's worth.
Of Of course it is. Like, we've been, like, post-pandemic, so the vast majority of games that have come out in the last couple of years have all been remakes. When I did my, or when I did a podcast with my good friend Dudes on the Couch, we talked about games of 2021, and the first thing that we said is the vast majority of the games that came out last year were all remakes. And the problem is, like, remakes and nostalgia factor is exactly how people sell games nowadays, because new titles are a lot harder to come by because you're having to start from scratch more often than not. So we've got a problem here of, at the end of the day, nostalgia is going to be how games will sell, which means that trying to persuade an audience that is based on nostalgia more often than not to try something else different is going to be a little awkward, right? But I think he does make a lot of good points here. I think there's a lot of takes that are fair and legitimate, but it's not necessarily applicable to me because I've played a lot of these other games. But maybe some of you guys haven't, and I highly encourage you to guys to go check them out, especially Nexamon, especially Koromon. Those are pretty good. Monster Crown had some pretty interesting mechanics to it. The idea of being able to crossbreed creatures to create completely different species. That is a thing that is in that game. So that is something that's kind of interesting to do. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's always different mechanics in some of these games that are appealing to some people, but maybe not appealing to others.
Whether it be sequels or remakes to movies that came out when we were younger, overpriced remakes and remasters of games that already exist, crappy
This is
game
kind of a cool little
franchises that
lifestyle.
literally pump out the same thing every
Very
year with
casual,
slight
but kinda
changes at
interesting.
full price or whatever. All because we know what we're getting, regardless of whether or not what that thing we're getting is good. Make new nostalgia, find new
kind of
franchises to
content.
be passionate about. Don't settle for less and be complacent. You, the customer, have all the power, and it's time for more people to realize that and come out of their comfort zone and expand their horizons.
I agree with a lot of what he said. For a lot of people that are too resistant to try out other things, go try them out. You never know, you might like them and you might not, but it's at least worth a look, right? But for me, personally, as a Pokemon fan, it's very hard for me to kind of justify all of this man's points, but I do like a lot of what he's saying. I think for a lot of people that have just reluctantly bought Pokemon games, this is a video for you. But obviously, make your own choice. That's at the end of the day. If you want to play a Pokemon game, play a Pokemon game. If you don't want to play a Pokemon game, don't play a Pokemon game, right? No one's forcing you to do anything here. But at the end of the day, like, the main point to draw from this is vote with your wallet. Vote with what you want, right? If you don't want a specific game, don't play it, right? Don't buy it even, right? If you know you're not gonna like a game, just don't pick it up. It's as simple as that. I feel like we need to, as a consumer, we need to kind of hold our rights and our wallet a little bit closer to our chest. But yeah, I really like what he said. The link to the original video will be down in the description, of course. Definitely let me know what you think about this video and anything else down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you as always. But as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.